Good evening. It's Saturday, the 23rd of August. You're tuned in to our 10 p.m. newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre here in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us on this Saturday evening. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story tonight, North Korea has stepped up its condemnation of the joint military drills between South Korea and the United States, threatening to retaliate if the exercises continue. The newspaper of North Korea's Workers' Party, the Rodong Sinmun, on Saturday accused Seoul of shifting the responsibility of raising tensions on the peninsula after South Korea said the drills, dubbed Ulchi Freedom Guardian, were purely defensive in nature. It also said Pyongyang does not make empty threats and would consider a physical response if it deems one necessary. The paper added that North Korea's sincere efforts to end inter-Korean hostilities had been ignored by Seoul and Washington. The computer-assisted UFG simulation exercises are designed to train South Korean and US forces how to deal with a range of current but also future threats to the south. North Korean authorities have started the selection process for the country's cheering squad for the upcoming Asian Games that will take place in South Korea's western port city of Incheon. Radio Free Asia reports that 150 female college students and 150 performing artists will make up the 300-member cheering squad. Only women under the age of 26 and over 165 centimeters tall will be considered. In addition, candidates have to pass the state's physical and background checks, which are conducted by North Korea's state intelligence agency. Aside from the cheering squad, North Korea said on Friday that it would send a 273-member delegation, including 150 athletes, to the Games that kick off on September 19th. Now, Korea is drawing attention to its well-loved easternmost islets of Dokdo, with two events that are taking place. One is to honour the volunteers who have guarded Dokdo since the end of the Korean War. The other is to preserve the memory of the now extinct sea lions that once swam in great numbers in the surrounding waters. Our Connie Kim has this report.
Korea's easternmost island of Dokdo consists of two small outcroppings of rock in the East Sea between the Korean peninsula and Japan. Since 1953, the island has been guarded by a group of volunteers from a private institution called the Dokdo Volunteer Garrison. On Monday, a commemorative hall is set to open in their honor on Ulleungdo Island, which lies some 80 kilometers from Dokdo. While it's largely uninhabited by humans, Dokdo was once home to a thriving population of sea lions. But during Japan's colonization of Korea, Japanese fishermen hunted them for their skin and oil, and by the 1950s, the sea lions, known in Korea as gangchi, had been driven to extinction. To raise awareness of their story, a group of orchestra members and singers gathered last week for an annual event designed to preserve the memory of the sea lions and protect Korea-controlled Dokdo Island in the face of Japanese claims to it. For the past 3 years, the orchestra has tried to perform on the island, but wasn't able to due to bad weather. But this year was different.
2 years ago, we weren't able to get on the boat to Dokdo, and last year we performed out on the deck of the boat facing Dokdo. I feel like the Kanji sea lions have finally opened their hearts to us now and are now free of the pain and agony inflicted upon them in the past.
Concert goers were taken aback by the scene.
It feels like I've achieved everything. I hope this concert helps foreign countries realize that Dokdo is Korean territory.
With the largest number of participants ever taking part this year, this concert continues to raise awareness about the importance of protecting the Korea-controlled Dokdo Island. Connie Kim, Arirang News, Dokdo.
Now, a US trade watchdog has endorsed anti-dumping duties on steel pipe imports from Korea and 5 other countries. The US International Trade Commission voted on Friday that cheap imports of oil country tubular goods from South Korea, India, Taiwan, Turkey, Ukraine and Vietnam are harming US steelmakers. The goods subject to the extra duties are pipe and tube products used in the oil industry, such as drill pipes, pipe casing and oil pipes. The Commission's decision will deal a very heavy blow to the Korean industry, which is almost totally dependent on the US market. The US Department of Commerce decided last month to impose anti-dumping duties ranging between 9.89% and up to 15.75% against Korean steel pipe products, saying they are imported below market prices. Staying in the US, and Janet Yellen, chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, says the US economy is improving, but warned there is a possibility that the severe recession has caused permanent changes in the labour market's functioning. In a speech on Friday in the US that largely focused on the local jobs market, Yellen said the economy had made great progress in recovering from the largest and most sustained loss of employment in the US since the Great Depression. Mentioning there were encouraging signs, Yellen said that it spoke to the depth of the damage that 5 years after the end of the recession, the labour market has yet to fully recover. The US has added more than 200,000 jobs each month for 6 months in a row now. The Fed chief said that despite the improvements, she wanted more evidence about the health of labour markets before deciding when to start raising interest rates. 18 people suspected of collaborating with Israel have been executed by gunmen linked to Hamas, a day after 3 of the group's commanders were killed in an Israeli airstrike. Fighting between the two sides has continued to flare up, Hamas firing scores of rockets across the border, one killing a 4-year-old Israeli child. Hwang Jie has the details.
Hamas-led masked gunmen brought the suspected informants for Israel before a crowd of onlookers on Friday. The masked men killed at least 18 of them by firing squad, delivering the message that anyone found conspiring with Israel could expect the ultimate punishment.
They are spies. They helped kill people. The Jews did not know there was resistance here until these collaborators told them. We should clean our area of these people before we cleanse it of the Jews.
The executions came just a day after an Israeli airstrike killed 3 senior Hamas commanders. Since the collapse of Egyptian-led ceasefire talks earlier this week, fighting continued for a 3rd day. Israel has launched about 20 airstrikes at Gaza, killing at least 4 people. Gaza militants responded by firing rockets, killing a 4-year-old Israeli boy. The boy was the first Israeli child killed by Palestinian fire since July 8th, when the conflict started. The almost 2-month-long war has already killed over 2,000 Palestinians, with children taking up nearly a quarter of the dead, while around 70 have died on the Israeli side. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, the world is waiting to see what the US does next as the crisis in Iraq deepens. Well, the United States is considering launching airstrikes against Islamic State militants in Syria. This after the beheading of American journalist James Foley. White House Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes says the US stands ready to take action against threats wherever they come from. He also declared that the beheading of Mr. Foley was a terrorist attack on the US. President Obama has been resistant over engaging in Syria's extremely bloody civil war, with US airstrikes against IS militants being limited to Iraq, where the militants have been taking over very fast indeed. However, it remains unclear whether President Obama will actually authorize a new strategy, and his aides say the president has not yet come up with any recommendations. Now, in some health news, a growing number of people here in Korea are suffering from osteonecrosis, which is a disease that causes your bone to decay. Now, it's a chronic condition that most commonly affects men in their 40s and 50s and is largely due to their drinking habits. Our Son Jung-in has this report.
3 months ago, this patient struggled with pain in his hips and waist whenever he started to walk. He thought he could alleviate the pain through acupuncture and injections, but they were of no help. He later found out that his hip bone was decaying and eventually had to have surgery.
I could not move my left leg. When walking, I had to take a rest every 10 minutes. I even crawled because of the pain.
The number of people like Yoon who are suffering from osteonecrosis is increasing. It is a chronic condition in which the material that cushions the joints breaks down due to disruption to the blood supply. It is most often found in the knees, shoulders, ankles, and hips. In Korea, the number of patients jumped 18% from 22,000 in 2007 to 26,000 last year. It can occur in people of any age, but is most common in people in their 30s to 50s. By gender, the number of male patients is 1.7 times higher. Those who drink alcohol in excess are a higher risk, as a decrease in blood circulation can lead to decay in bone cells. Those who take steroid medications over a long period of time can also be affected.
The disease doesn't just remain in the hips. It can also spread to the pelvis. It deforms the joints, making it impossible to perform normal movements.
A disrupted disc shares similar symptoms with the ailment. They include pain in your hip bones or a feeling of numbness in your legs. But you may suspect osteonecrosis if you have difficulty sitting on the floor with your legs crossed. To prevent the onset of the disease, experts advise staying physically active, maintaining a healthy weight, and avoiding excessive drinking. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And finally, leaving you with the weather update. Most of the country is under partly cloudy skies this Saturday evening. It will be a mild and dry night with the overnight low only dipping to 20 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Sunday will be another nice, sunny, late summer day with highs around the country reaching the high 20s. Let's take a look at the weather in your part of the world. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest stories, don't forget to check out our website, which can be found at arirang.co.kr/news. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.